Hello, do you like watching Naruto? And would you like to know who you would be if you got into anime? Then right now subscribe to the channel, like this video, and the last number of your like will indicate who you would be if you got into anime. For example, I would become Itachi, and you? Write in comments. Hello, do you like watching Naruto? And would you like to know who you would be if you got into anime? Then right now subscribe to the channel, like this video, and the last number of your like will indicate who you would be if you got into anime. For example, I would become Itachi, and you? Write in comments.
Kanaha. Deep night. Everybody sleeps. Only sometimes the wind will blow through the deserted streets, raise the dust, and let go. Rustling with leaves, play with them, and leave. In the dark night sky, a gray, full moon is watching all this, and with it her children, are the stars. Beauty, tranquility and serenity. But no one sees or feels it, except for one person. He sat on Mount Hokage, on the head of the fourth, as the overseer and watchman of all this personification of the former greatness of the shinobi village. He was dressed all in black, pants, a t-shirt, a jacket, and a black mask that hides his entire face, except for eyes that are clear and blue, like two oceans. Raven hair, and a crossed-out Kanaha head protector. Behind him was a backpack, in which the scrolls were clearly visible, lying in the vault an hour ago. He looked at Kanaha, the place where he was born, died and was born again. He looked at her with a parting, and at the same time contemptuous look. He recalled. Flashback. Evening. Kanaha. Many villagers took to the streets and wandered slowly through them. Among all this crowd, the only person stood out. The shinobi who unofficially bears the nickname Kanaha's most unpredictable ninja is Naruto Uzumaki. He walked like everyone else, not in a hurry, but only because he was completely loaded with food, or rather his favorite dish, ramen. He took every step awkwardly, constantly staggering. With these bags, he lost his balance, but never fell. And also, these packages closed the review for everything that was ahead. And yet it is good that he remembered the road. So he managed to come home without incident, as it seemed to him. When he walked to the door of his house, Naruto suddenly remembered. In the store, when he got out the money, he took out the keys along with the money, and then put them on the counter, where he forgot them. Heh. He smoothly, so as not to spoil anything, as always, put the bags near the door. Now go back there. He whined. Uzumaki Naruto? The blonde heard a stern voice behind him, and answered expressively. Yes. He turned and saw 3 ANBUs. Is Granny calling me? We have come for you. What? Naruto froze in disbelief. Grab it, commanded the commander. 3 ANBUs rushed at the almost defenseless teenager. But Naruto didn't yawn. The first ANBU, who is the commander, received a blow between the legs, the second foot in the mask. And the third went around from behind, and knocked out the blonde. You too. Remove the tracks. Croaked through the pain of the ANBU, standing up and walking towards Naruto's unconscious body. And I'll take it to Danzo-sama. Hi. Where am I? Naruto came to his senses, and tried to look around, but saw nothing through the darkness. He tried to move, but realized that he was suspended from the wall. He casually said the thought out loud. Why? Why was I caught? Because of which? Because of what lurks in you, a voice sounded in the darkness. Naruto looked around, but found only impenetrable darkness. A moment later, a bright light came on. He closed his eyes and turned his head away. Over time, the eyes got used to it, and he turned. An old man in bandages stood 5 meters away from him, and there were many ANBUs around. All is ready? Dans asked one of the ANBU, without taking his eyes off Naruto. Yes. Begin. He commanded and walked to the opposite wall. There, he was hanged just like Naruto. Pull it off. The ANBU stripped Dans to the waist, which was also done with Naruto. Then some mechanism started working. Danzo and Naruto, suspended and undressed to the waist, drove up to the center of a circle. The ANBU stood around them, and folded the seals of concentration. At first nothing happened, but then the circle lit up with a golden light. Naruto felt his stomach as if it were burning and bursting. Then he screamed in pain. Ah ah. She was monstrous. The seal the Kyuubi was holding began to flow down like ink. It became even more painful and unbearable. Naruto screamed. It was hell. Then the orange chakra began to appear from the abdomen. She went like a pipe to Danzo, and began to disappear into his stomach. Shimura started screaming too. But Danzo's screaming and anguish was nothing compared to Naruto's screaming and anguish. So it lasted half an hour, and agony, worse than hell, ended for Naruto. After the last drop of the Kyuubi chakra was removed from him, Naruto passed out. Dans was stronger. He remained conscious, and after being removed from his chains by the ANBU said, "Throw the body somewhere in the forest, and help me get to the office." Hi. Dans was carried away. Naruto was also dragged off his chains, and then carried into the forest, and left there to die. 1 week later. For a whole week he lay unconscious. And only now I came to my senses. He lay motionless, because there was no strength to even turn his head. But he found them, and was able to get up. He swayed in all directions, but he walked. He walked holding on to every tree. He did not know where, why he was going. But for a long time, it did not pass. In the end, he caught on to something and fell right in front of the descent itself. So he rolled down, but he was stopped by a tree, on which he hit hard. There was no whining strength, however, like the rest. But he got up again, not knowing how. And then, in the distance, he saw a familiar place and familiar people. It was a cemetery. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't, only wheezed. He wanted to approach, but fell. He could not get up, so he could only crawl slowly, but stubbornly. It was difficult, almost impossible. Soon, everyone dispersed and Naruto found the strength to rise again. Staggering from side to side, he reached the place where everyone had recently stood. And what he saw there amazed him. Naruto stood in front of his tombstone. His body began to fill with hatred. Power appeared from nowhere in his body. He clenched his fists. He wanted to kill, destroy everything and everyone. He folded the seal, turning into a boy of about 7 years old, and then went to his home. When he walked to the front door of his house, Uzumaki remembered that he did not have the keys, and at the same time remembered that he might have left the window open. Although Naruto hadn't hoped it would be revealed, luckily it did. He calmly climbed, but the hinge immediately flew off. He fell exhausted into unconsciousness. It's been 3 days. Naruto was sitting on a chair. He recently came to his senses, and was now thinking what to do now. Option 1 is to run. But he wanted to leave loudly. How much chakra he had. He did not know what he was capable of either. I didn't want to take risks, but I needed to. He wanted to rob the vault. He needs to become stronger, but he didn't know how to do it. His gaze fell on the knife, and then an idea occurred to him. He used the henge, took the money from the rainy day stash, and left. 2.5 hours later, he came in with a bunch of packages. He threw them anywhere, and went to bed. The body had not yet recovered, and required rest. After a rest day, Naruto went to unpack the bags. He bought new black clothes, hair dye, equipment, explosive powder and sleeping pills. Now, we will wait until I recover. He smiled. 3 weeks later, Naruto has recovered almost completely, and is leaving today. By and large leaves. In the morning he dyed his hair. They were darker than night now. All the equipment was ready. Now he sat at the table, and crossed out his protector. And when he finished, he went to change. Now he was all in black, only his eyes were blue. He is ready. Now it remains only to wait for the night. Night Konoha. Everybody sleeps. Except for the ANBU, who are patrolling Konoha. The special guards, assigned to the vault, were the best ANBU. 2 ANBUs stand by the front doors to the vault. The moon in the sky has gone beyond the clouds. It got a little dark. So it started. Naruto whispered to himself, sitting on the roof of one of the houses, and looking at the entrance to the vault. A pair of ANBUs stood motionless. Imperceptibly, 2 balls rolled up to their feet, and immediately began to smoke. The ANBU began to fall unconscious. When they passed out, Naruto showed up. He looked at them, and then took the keys, and opened the vault, but did not enter. He took out a larger bomb, and threw it inside. It exploded almost immediately. From within, sounds were heard of the ANBUs coughing, and their bodies falling. The gas faded and Naruto entered. Uzumaki intended to take the scrolls of the elemental techniques. Fortunately for him, everything was on the shelves, and therefore did not have to look. He took several scrolls of each element, and was about to go, but he was stopped by one scroll, a scroll of Kenjutsu. He could not decide to take it, or not. In the end he took it and left. He went to Mount Hokage for one last look at Konoha before leaving. End flashback. Naruto got up. He looked at the village for the last time and said, "Goodbye, Konoha," and then disappeared into the forest thicket. Commentary on the beginning. Sorry if something goes wrong. First chapter. And we leave feedback. Escape from the land of fire. Escape from the land of fire. How? I ask how. Papers flew from the table. Who? Now the table itself has become a victim of the 5th Hokage's fury. Tsunade was standing over a broken table in 2. Her chest and shoulders were lifted frequently. Tsunade-sama. Shizen began uncertainly, still standing in the corner from where she was watching the Hokage. Maybe you'll sit down. Tsunade glared at her assistant, and she returned to her original place. Tsunade decided to listen to her assistant, and sat down. For some time she was still furious, but then she took a deep breath and exhaled, as if calmed down. Shizen, bring some sake, she asked, but Shizen. I already told Tsunade-sama that the Hokage is not. Tsunade looked at her again. I'll smear you on the wall if you don't bring it, 5th hissed through clenched teeth. Shizen quickly nodded in agreement. and hurried out of the office. Tsunade sat in a chair for a while, waiting for the sake. The assistant was not, and was not. Tsunade was already overwhelmed by sake, and she suddenly began to feel sad for herself. To be sad. Because of Naruto. Because of this obnoxious, always cheerful and smiling blonde. Because of his antics. Because of his whining that he should save Sasuke. And for a brief moment, it seemed to her that now, he would run into the office and shout, "Granny Tsunade, I'm alive." A bitter smile came over her face. There was a knock on the door. "Come in," answered Tsunade, allowing him to enter. "Here I am," Shizen said, standing on the doorstep with sake in her hands. "Come on, guys." Shizen entered the office, followed by Izumo and Katsu, who brought in a new table. They removed what was left of the previous one, and put a new one in its place. "Thank you, you can be free," thanked the assistant Hokage. Contact. Then Izumo and Katsu left. "Your sake, Tsunade-sama." The Hokage took the bottle, and put it in the trash. 1. Shizen was frankly surprised. She stood, and her eyes almost bulged out on her forehead. But then she remembered that she had news. "Tsunade-sama, I have news. This concerns the robbery of the vault." "And what's the news?" This clearly interested the fifth. 1 ANBU. "I could see the robber." "Call him," shouted the Hokage. "Come in." At Shizen's command, the ANBU entered wearing a tiger mask. "What you see?" Tsunade asked immediately, not allowing ANBU to even greet her. Already, when it got dark, I noticed that on the roof of one of the houses someone was sitting and watching us. And when the moon began to set behind the clouds, he disappeared. And then something rolled to my feet. There was a gas release. Me and another employee fell to the ground. My partner passed out immediately, and I was still in myself. When the moon appeared, he showed up. It was a teenager. I didn't really see anything, only the hair in different directions. The Konoha protector and blue eyes were crossed out. "Come out." Tsunade snapped. "Yes." ANBU immediately complied with the order. "Tsunade-sama, you don't think that anything is possible?" The fifth got up from her seat and went to the window. "If it's him," she trailed off, "we have to get him back." Step. And one more. And further. Everything. Naruto fell to the ground. "Damn it. I'm tired. I cannot do it anymore." He crawled away from the road, and sat down under a tree. The whole body ached, and the journey was long. Still to stomp, and stomp to the border. And if they are looking for him, he will not run far. But of course they are looking for him. In addition, questions were added to all this. Many questions. Who? Why? What for? What did they do? And not a single answer. He looked in the direction of Konoha. This is the path that he made. Then he looked ahead. This is the path that he must travel. The whole body ached at that moment. He sighed. Now he looked up to the sky. He looked at the clouds, which were slowly floating somewhere unhurriedly. Naruto began to imagine his new life. House, somewhere in a quiet and peaceful place. Wife, and children. Quiet life and nothing else. He was already in seventh heaven with happiness, but suddenly the thought that he was an apostate cancelled everything out. At the same second, he abruptly failed. His body swayed a little, but he ignored it, and moved forward. The further he got from Konoha, the more nervousness grew. Every rustle, every sound, everything began to disturb him. He was afraid to turn back, and see the ANBU, which would grab him, and carry him back, to the dungeons of the dungeons. And again there will be those torments, and pain. Suddenly screams were heard ahead, and very familiar ones. Forward. May the power of Booth help us. Someone was shouting very cheerfully. Yes, sensei. Also, someone was very cheerfully supporting their sensei. Neji. Tell them something. These were already cries of discontent. It wasn't hard for Naruto to figure out who it was. Teen Gaia-sensei. The panic began. Naruto wanted to escape into the forest, but it was too late. Their silhouettes were already appearing on the horizon. He plucked up courage. Stop running. If there is a fight, then there will be a fight. Naruto concentrated and walked forward. Closer and closer. They continued to scream and resent. Only Neji looked at him. Naruto didn't understand why. And here is the moment of truth. They crossed. Naruto held his breath. And everything went smoothly. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. But 64 heavens touch. Naruto instantly realized that he was standing in the area of the Hyuga's technique, and that he was approaching him. With quick movements, Naruto pulled a ball out of his pouch, and briskly turned 180 degrees to throw it. Smoke rose. Naruto took advantage of this, and fled into the forest. He ran as fast as he could. Having escaped enough, he hid behind a tree to rest a little. How did he understand? After all, Naruto touched the protector. Exactly. Crossed out, and how I have not forgotten about it. Azumaki stuck his head out to see if they were following him. The answer was a kune whistling near the head. Naruto immediately jumped out of his hiding place, and just in time. It was immediately demolished by shells of cold weapons. Before he had time to land, the next volley flew at him. But then luck turned to Naruto. A branch broke under him, and he flew down, and the shells flew over his head. But a surprise awaited him on Earth. As soon as he landed, he went flying, thanks to Lee. Only a tree stopped him. With groans, Naruto began to rise, but then a hand grabbed him by the collar, and nailed him to the same tree. Naruto moved his gaze along his hand to the very eyes, the eyes of the color of the moon. Neji looked into Naruto's eyes, the same as Naruto looked into Neji's eyes. And then it seemed to Neji that he had already seen them somewhere. And then he remembered Naruto. Neji's grip loosened, and Naruto took advantage of it. He kicked Neji in the gut with his knee, then attached an explosive seal to him, and kicked. And when the seal began to hiss, he began to run. There was an explosion, but Naruto didn't care if he killed him or not. The main thing was to run away. At that time, Hokage's office. The Hokage was now head over heels at work, in the truest sense of the word. The stacks of papers were up to Tsunade's ears, and she skillfully disposed of them. Shizen ran back and forth every now and then. Tsunade was automatically stamping the seal, which was amazing. Suddenly screams were heard in the corridor. Tsunade rushed into the office and said loudly, "Hokage-sama, we've spotted a strange shinobi. All in black. The Konoha protector is crossed out and..." Before he could finish, Tsunade grabbed him by the collar and asked one single question. Where? Naruto ran with all his might. His former friends were chasing him. The forest was already over. He was running across the field. It was close to the border of the land of fire and the land of rice fields. There was nothing left. Suddenly there was a cry. Naruto. He seemed to be numb. Uzumaki slowly turned around and saw all his friends. Shikamaru, Ino, Chaoji, Kibo with Akamaru, Hinata, Shino, Ten, Lee, Neji, Sakura, Kakashi, Gay, Asuma, Kurne, everything. I'm not Naruto, he said roughly. Uzumaki turned and wanted to go. Stop. Kakashi said in a commanding tone. Naruto looked over his shoulder at him. This is definitely not Naruto. He is dead. This is someone else, just like. Dead sounded in Uzumaki's head. Dead was sounded again. Dead. Fists clenched, hatred took possession of his mind. He reached into the pouch and took out a kunai with an explosive seal. I didn't want to use it, but... he said. A hellish grin appeared under the mask. If anyone saw her, he would get nervous. The newly minted Nukenin threw a kunai, but he did not fly, but landed a few meters from the ex-friends. I missed. Guy screamed and was about to go on the attack, but he was stopped by Kakashi. Goodbye. Naruto snapped his fingers, and the scroll began to burn. Get down, commanded Kakashi. An explosion thundered, and with it a fire appeared, which closed in a ring around Naruto's ex-friends. Maybe we'll see you again, he said and began to leave. Kakashi stared after the shinobi for a long time, whose silhouette was indistinct due to the flames, until he completely disappeared from sight. Iro-sanin. Fields? Rice fields. The only thing that makes the country of the rice fields famous. A small cart was driving along one of the roads. The gray-haired, bearded grandfather drove the horse, and from time to time, glanced back at Naruto. He lay quietly in the cart, hands behind his head, and looked at the sky, at the clouds that were slowly floating there. Everything seemed so carefree. It was so calm around. Not a soul. They drove slowly, unhurriedly. The carriage creaked softly. The grandfather occasionally chased the horse, and Naruto continued to lie down and enjoy the calmness. So, where are you from? The grandfather broke the silence. From Konoha, Naruto replied while still looking at the clouds. So far from home? Yes, and so small. And what has brought you so far? Grandfather was really surprised by Naruto's answer. He did not expect such an answer, but the protector confirmed it. Small, but smart. He was drawn to the search for adventure. Grandfather laughed loudly. Naruto also could not help smiling. Are you a robber or what? The old man continued his interrogation. Why do you think so? Naruto raised himself a little and looked at his grandfather. You are all in black. You hide your face under a mask. Naruto looked at himself. Ha 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 ha. The grandfather laughed again. Do not be offended. I was joking, but you really look like a bandit. Probably. Naruto returned to his former position. So, what brought you here? Betrayal, answered Uzumaki. The episodes of that day, from which goosebumps began to rush before my eyes. Naruto shook his head to throw away the memories. Grandfather noticed this, so he decided not to disturb the boy anymore. Naruto continued to enjoy the calmness. Suddenly the wagon jerked violently. What? Naruto got up and looked at his grandfather. We've arrived, he answered and looked at Uzumaki. Naruto looked into the distance, rooftops playing in the sun on the horizon. You go there, said the grandfather, pointing to the side, where Uzumaki was looking. Naruto got off the wagon. Thank you. Having said this, he began to look for something very actively in his pockets. A minute later he pulled out money from there, and handed it to his grandfather saying, Take this. No. I will not take. You need them more. Thanks is enough for me. Goodbye. Perhaps we will meet again. Let's go. The carriage moved further along the road. Goodbye, Naruto said so that the old man would hear. Having looked at this money, and put it in his pocket, he moved towards the town. The town was familiar to Naruto. Once, he stayed here for the night, during one mission. Therefore, he knew where to go. At the hotel, they didn't meet him very well. Were they afraid, or were they surprised? Naruto didn't get it. He got a room, and he didn't care about anything else. Entering the room, he immediately threw his backpack and shoes aside. Then he lay down on the bed, and instantly fell asleep. But he could not rest. Half an hour later, the door of the next room was banged hard. And then for another half hour, loud laughter came from her. Naruto woke up, lay there for 15 minutes trying to fall asleep, then got out of bed, and went out into the corridor, went to the door of the room from which laughter emanated. There was a do not disturb sign on the door, but that didn't stop Uzumaki. Several times, he knocked loudly on the door. The laughter stopped inside. Footsteps were heard approaching the door. Naruto didn't even bother to wait. As soon as the lock clicked, Naruto kicked her out, and pounced on the man. Both fell to the ground and Naruto, grabbing him by the collar, began to shake, and complain to him. What the hell are you laughing? People want to sleep. And you? Iro-sanin? Suddenly Naruto recognized his sensei. Who? Jiraiya didn't immediately understand. Sorry. Naruto stood up and looked around. A brunette girl fell into his eyes. He muttered. Again for his own. Who are you? The Sannin asked, getting up. I am. Oh yes. Naruto touched the mask, and took it off. Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto? Sannin narrowed his eyes. Something does not look like. Although. Damn it, Naruto. He cried out. The whole session is over. I will contact you again, he said to the girl, and then grabbed her hand, and pushed her out the door, and turning to him said. Sorry, I'm a little embarrassed. Have a seat. Naruto sat down on the sofa. Sannin sat opposite. Tell me. Jiraiya demanded. What? I do not understand, Naruto. Everything. I was just going to Konoha to take you to training, for a period of 3 years, so now let's go to Konoha, and ask Tsunade to let go. Late. Naruto said sharply, after which he quickly controlled himself in a quieter voice. I won't go back there. Why? And why is your protector crossed out? Listen. Naruto told everything in order. And the fact that the Kyuubi was pulled out of him, and the fact that he now looks like a half shinobi, and the fact that he stole the scrolls. Jiraiya's face took on a stern look. He got up, and walked to the door. Follow me, said the Sannin. Naruto followed him. they went out of town, into a clearing. Why are we here? Naruto asked. What you did is unforgivable, he replied without hesitating. Therefore, Jiraiya spun around, and kicked Naruto into the nearby tree. Ka! Spat blood. Uzumaki muttered, traitor. Naruto tried to rise, but was immediately grabbed by the collar, and lifted off the ground. You chose the wrong path, Jiraiya said, and knocked him against a tree. That. Ka. Naruto grabbed the hand that held him, and then kicked Sannin with both feet. Sannin let go of Naruto, and he ran into the forest. You won't run away, shouted the Sannin, and ran after him. Heck! 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 Naruto shouted to himself. With one hand he tried to find the pouch on his belt, but it was not there. Damn! He continued to run. He understood that he would not run away, but he ran. Why am I running away? I've never run away before. He was not afraid of death. And now, I was one step away from her, but I survived, and I'm afraid. No. Stop. If you die, then with honor. Naruto thought and stopped, turned to the enemy, and found that Jiraiya was already standing in front of him. I won't run away. More for himself than for the enemy, said Naruto, and stretched out his hand and strained. I didn't give a damn. Let me die in battle, but I won't die like that. Never. Around the hand, chakras began to whirl, a ball began to form. Rasengan. He ran to Jiraiya, but the Sannin just jumped to the side. Naruto did not even have time to react, so the blow fell on the tree. That's all, he thought. Naruto just closed his eyes, and expected a terrible reprisal. But the only thing he felt was the way a hand fell on his shoulder. I was kidding, Jiraiya said. Naruto turned around, and saw only Jiraiya's smile. How is all this to be understood? Naruto's surprise and anger knew no bounds. I was just testing you, said the Sannin. And what do you understand? Uzumaki asked irritably. Your chakra has not decreased, perhaps a little, but now it will take a long time to recover. Your chakra control has also improved. You have grown a little wiser, and Jiraiya noticed Naruto start to stagger. You need a break. Naruto started to fall, but was caught by a Sannin. Shall we go to the hotel? Yes, I have not slept yet. Ha 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 ha. The Sannin laughed. Come on, it's time for you to learn a lot. The beginning of a new life. Part 1. The ceiling. Naruto had just woken up, pain running through his body. Any movement led to an impulse that passed through the whole body and brought pain. Although it's nothing compared to what I've been through, it's still quite unpleasant. He turned his head toward the window. It was raining. The drops dripped slowly down the glass, leaving tracks. The sky was dark gray, even black. Sometimes the sky was cut by lightning, which was accompanied by a crash of thunder. He turned his head the other way. The first thing that caught my eye was a note, an envelope and a scroll. Oh, what's this? He stretched out his hand from under the blanket, and tried to take the note. It hurt. His hand was trembling, but he succeeded. Yes, this is not a note, but it looks like a whole poem, he said, looking at what was written, and began to read. Good morning, afternoon or evening, Naruto. Forgive me for leaving, but I had to. You have chosen your path. It is full of dangers and adventures. From now on, you are a Nukenin, which means my enemy. Our next meeting will not be as a student and sensei, but as enemies. I went to Konoha to find out more. I hope the scrolls you stole are safe, and you can learn from them. I hope that if we meet, we will fight on equal terms. And also like sensei, I am sure that you will be an excellent shinobi. But now do not get too loaded, you have not yet moved away from the events that you told me. Your chakra reserve is still large. It certainly became smaller, but big enough. And there is also an envelope on the table in it, enough money for some time. And the scroll. It contains your father's technique. I think it's time for you to find out. Your father was the fourth Hokage Minato Namikaze. By the way, you are very similar to him. The mother was Kushina Uzumaki, from the once powerful clan, Uzumaki. From here, I suppose, you remained alive, and have a large supply of chakra. Hokage's father. A mother from such a clan. Sorry, I'm talking about something. So, in this scroll is the Thunder God technique. Minato gave it to me just for such an occasion. He didn't even think that this would happen. Well, I hope you use it wisely. Now, goodbye. Good luck, Naruto. Iro. Jiraiya-sensei. Tears flowed from his eyes. No. He wiped his eyes. I shouldn't cry. He squeezed the letter in his hand, and said in a serious voice into the void. I will not let you down. A few days later. Konoha. Hokage's office. Damn. All the papers flew off the table. How to understand this? A blow to the table, and it fell into two parts. Tsunade-sama is already table 10, maybe. Shizen, if you don't shut up, the same fate awaits you. Assistant Tsunade whole blanched. Why haven't they found him yet? Is it really that difficult? The search teams themselves do not understand. No one saw anything. She continued to report to Shizen. Maybe he went along the border. The Hokage bit her nail. Excluded. We combed the entire neighborhood 10 kilometers from the border. The fact that he is in the land of rice fields is 100%. He could have left her. Tsunade again fell to the cry. If they don't find him, the old people will kill me. There was a knock on the door. Come in. The door opened, and a smiling Jiraiya entered the office. Tsunade. How glad I am to see you. He shouted, entering and sitting down on the sofa. What is the impudence? Who allowed you to sit down? The Hokage was already filled with anger, and then there was Jiraiya. Of course it's not that bad, but it pissed her off a little. I am. He began. I'm for Naruto. Where is this daredevil? Ha 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 ha. Tsunade and Shizen became sad. Even Tun-Tun in Shizen's arms felt sad. Why did you become so sad? More fun. Ha 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 ha. Jiraiya He died Jiraiya. Tsunade squeezed out of herself. These words were hard for her. How did you die? Are you kidding? Ha ha ha. The Sannin did not calm down. Jiraiya. This is not a joke. From the eyes Tsunade gave way to tears. He didn't keep his promise. He died. Damn necklace. She began to sob. You're not kidding? He really. Jiraiya's face froze in confusion. He disappeared. No one knows where he is. So you buried him without even knowing if he was alive? Now Jiraiya was angry. How to understand this? Maybe he's alive? No. The shinobi brought his clothes, all torn and covered in blood. That's how Jiraiya became sad. I heard something happened. He abruptly changed the subject to Tsunade, calmed down. Someone robbed the vault, and stole the scrolls. The shinobi did it. Boy, all in black. Black hair and crossed out Konoha's protector. There is a black mask on the face. Reported to Shizen. That kid. Nice guy. Jiraiya sat quietly on the couch. I saw him at a hotel in a town, near the border. What sources are there? Sannin was dreaming. Shizen. Tsunade jumped up, and headed for the door. Follow me. She shouted, already walking down the corridor. I hope you have already recovered, Naruto. Sannin remembered about the student. And I am not a bad actor. He smiled. Tsunade, wait. He shouted, catching up with her. Interesting, interesting. Ha ha, smiled, standing behind the wall. Danzo. We need to get these scrolls. 2 days later. Naruto took a shower, got dressed, ate, packed his things, and started off. Going out into the street, he took a deep breath of air. How long I rested. Well. Naruto flew in the clouds at the thought that a new life was beginning. This is it. Someone shouted in the street. Naruto looked in the direction of the scream. It turned out to be 4 shinobi with Konoha protectors. Without thinking twice, he began to run in the opposite direction. The shinobi rushed after him. Running down the street was ineffective. People did not allow to accelerate. So Naruto ran up the wall, and was now running across the rooftops. The shinobi split up. 2 ran after him, and 2 more down the street. Stop. There was a cry of one of the ninja of Konoha. Naruto fled. The shinobi were almost caught up. Here one is already pulling his hand, but Naruto noticed it, and therefore abruptly descended in the first alley. Naruto looked at those shinobi. They stood on the roof and watched him. Suddenly a crow flew in front of Naruto's eyes, and then suddenly he was surrounded by them. And then his intuition ordered to bend down. He sagged in his back, and a black sword appeared above him. Naruto had no time to think. He grouped up, and knocked down the shinobi, who was holding this sword. He fell, and Naruto, grabbing a sword, tried to get out of the cloud of ravens. He succeeded, but a shinobi in dark glasses was already waiting for him. You got caught. 3 more came from behind. There were no workarounds, but when the shinobi got closer, Naruto evaporated into a haze. You are my gift, shouted Uzumaki, standing on the roof, and snapping his fingers, ran away. Explosive scrolls lit up all around. Let's go. An explosion thundered. A beautiful sight. Naruto was already standing a few blocks away, and watching the fire that burned in the distance. Well, I think it's time. Naruto turned around, and was already starting to leave, when he was overtaken by a shout. Stop. It sounded from behind. Naruto looked back, and froze. There were 4 ANBUs in front of him. And the same ANBU who took him to the old man. Naruto started to run, but a wall immediately appeared in front of him, and then 3 more. To the right, left and behind. Naruto started to run up, but then one of the ANBU ran out to meet him. Nuknin, taking advantage of the fact that the cell was dark, and the sword was black, he grabbed it tighter, and ran to meet the ANBU. Get it? He waved it and, as it turned out, cut the artery. The ANBU corpse began to fall down, and Naruto continued to run. There were 3 people at the top. They did not see what happened, but suddenly a sword flew out from below and pierced the heart of one of them on the left. Then Naruto jumped out, drew his sword, and ran away. The ANBU continued to persecute. Suddenly, several shadows ran near Naruto and stopped in front of the ANBU. Naruto stopped and looked at who it was. It turned out they were Sound Shinobi. What right does ANBU Konoha have to visit the land of rice fields? Asked one of the Sound. Get out of the way. We have a mission. I don't give a damn. Guys, let's get it hot. Let's kill the bastards. Naruto was not interested in further action. He dashed away. Naruto ran and ran. He was already far away, so he decided to stop and make a halt. He sat down under a tree, somehow hooked his sword to his backpack, rested a little, and was about to go, when suddenly a kune flew past his face. He got up from his seat. In front of him stood 12 people with a sound protector. And who is this with us? Nuknin, I think so. Well, guys, grab him. It won't work. Naruto pulled out a smoke bomb from the pouch and threw it. Purple smoke rose around. Shadow cloning. At that moment, 12 Naruto jumped out of the smoke, and everyone ran in different directions. Divide. The leader ordered. Now Naruto was being chased by the Sound Shinobi. Naruto created 3 more clones. On the go, giving 2 of them a line. He himself climbed higher into the crowns of trees. The 3rd clone remained decoy. As soon as a clone shinobi appeared on the horizon, starting to lead him into a trap, when he ran a certain mark, the other 2 clones raised their fishing line. The Sound Shinobi did not have time to react, and fell to the ground. Rasengan. Naruto fell from the top of the tree with the Rasengan in hand, which stabbed the shinobi into the head. -1. And then Naruto felt the clones dissipate. What was that? He did not immediately understand. The clones are destroyed? Heck. Naruto started to run away again. He understood that they would find him, but they found him very soon, and after seconds they surrounded him. Well, kid? Are you giving up? The leader asked. 11. 2 explosive seals. 3 explosive balls. 1 smoke bomb. Shurikens. Fishing line. Come on, think. So is Shikamaru. Invented. We must lift the veil. Naruto reached for the pouch. Kid, do not be stupid. I don't. Answered Naruto and lifted another veil. Well, don't let me down. 2 explosive seals flew out of the curtain, followed by explosive balls. A series of explosions took place. Then several shurikens flew out, which struck the Sound Shinobi with high accuracy. Then Naruto jumped out with a fishing line, and appeared behind one shinobi, after which, throwing a fishing line around his neck, he began to strangle him. When he finished resisting, Naruto let him go. He looked around. There were corpses all around, and nothing more. Is that all? He asked himself, looking around everyone, but noticed the strangeness. 9, 10, 10. But there were. And then a kune hit him in the shoulder. He lost his balance, and fell to the ground. And we're good, as a boy. The leader came from his hiding place. But I'm not fooled. He slowly began to approach Naruto. Uzumaki slowly began to crawl back, holding onto the wound. He drew a kunai and threw, but missed. Suddenly his shoulders bumped into a tree, and the leader was already a few steps away. "Let me just kill you," the shinobi of sound suggested, so as not to suffer. He smiled. "If someone dies here, it's not me, but you." The last effort Naruto pulled out his sword, and swift movement plunged it straight into the heart. The leader did not have time to evade, and died instantly. Naruto pulled out his sword and, bleeding, walked on. Exactly 1 hour he wandered through the forest. His body was already ceasing to obey. And then he just fell into the ground. He rode through some tunnels, and then fell to the floor. The light came on. Naruto looked around. It was some kind of warehouse. There were weapons, chests, various fabrics, and everything looked not cheap. But Naruto didn't give a damn. He tore a piece from the cloth, and bandaged his wound. "Then I'll figure out what kind of place it is," he decided, finishing the dressing. "And now Then he lost consciousness. The beginning of a new life. Part 2. First mission. Where am I? What happened with me?" Naruto just came to his senses. What happened? He tried to remember everything that happened. So, I was away. Shinobi Konoha. Then Anbu. Shinobi sound. The wound. He remembered and tried to touch the wound. Hell, it still hurts. And now the main question. Where am I? He got up and walked over to the place, which was illuminated by a ray of the sun. Approaching him, he turned his attention to the ceiling. It became clear that he was somewhere underground. And also the fact that there are a lot of things here, and most likely they were not acquired honestly. So they will come here. But Uzumaki did not worry about it. Now, I had to make this place a little lighter, otherwise it was too dark. Of course, if this place is underground, then in any way it is somehow illuminated. So he started looking for something to help him. After a little searching, he found this object. It was a torch lying on the floor. Naruto hung it on the wall, where he was before, and lit it. It became brighter. "Well, if everything is ready, you can make a shelter out of this, but if the owners come here, I will quickly leave," he decided. "And now I think you can start training, although now is not the best time, so we will do as we have never done. First theory, and then practice. I think it would be interesting to have a little understanding of Kenjutsu." Naruto took his backpack and started looking for one of the scrolls he had stolen. Finding the right one, he began to read it. Konoha. Anbu root base. How you missed it. Danzo hit with his stick at the same time, taking out his anger at the Anbu. How did you allow this? Sama, Kia and Goro died in a fight with that boy, and Shuichi was killed by the sound shinobi, the Anbu reported. Here's how. Why didn't he continue to chase him alone? The head of the root continued to shout. Konoha shinobi arrived at the scene. They saw us. In addition, the sound shinobi pushed us back and reinforcements arrived. Enough. Free. There is. Anbu disappeared. Damn you. Danzo swore. At the same time, Hokage's office. Aoba, Rado, Izumo and Katsu stood in the Hokage's office. Badly battered, Tsunade was sitting at the table, and nervously knocking on the table. Jiraiya was sitting on the windowsill, and looking into the distance. Free. Go get a hospital checkup. Issued an order to the Hawkage. There is. The team left. Jiraiya, do you believe that? Senju asked. This world, Tsunade, is full of mysteries and secrets that we do not even know. And this guy is such a secret. He's smart, very smart. The Sannin explained. But how could he? Senju still didn't believe what Alba's team had just reported. Either he mastered great skill, or did not want to show all his strength, or he does not know how to use anything else. Here you can guess, and guess. But don't tell me, he's strong. I'm even a little afraid of him. A smile appeared on Jiraiya's face due to pride. In Naruto. That's what I think, and if it's Naruto. Tsunade suddenly voiced to herself. What? Jiraiya turned to her, and stared with amazed eyes. He's dead. Yes, but he was so eager to save Sasuke, that he might decide to become a renegade and… Nonsense. Jiraiya, Tsunade interrupted. If so, then he would not steal the scrolls, and kill his former teammates too. Yes, nonsense, something I didn't think. A bitter smile appeared on Tsunade's face. You are sad for him, right? The Sannin remarked. Yes, Fifth replied, a tear rolling down her cheek. Aren't you? I'm better hiding it, the Sannin justified. By the way, about the apostate. The elders. They are. Yes. Damn them. They want me to give him an S-class criminal, and put him on the wanted list. And they don't even think about the questions. Why? I will say that for the scrolls, and all the villages will begin to hunt him for these scrolls. I'd better wait. He should show up with these scrolls. He must gain strength, and then he will commit a crime, and then we will write him to the S-class. But no old people need it immediately. I would kill. Calmly. Do not rage, otherwise these old men will kill you, but you will not kill them, the Sannin reassured. Yes, she sighed with relief. Would you mind going to a bar and getting drunk? Suggested the Hawkage. With pleasure. Supported Jiraiya. 2 months later. Naruto's hideout. Get it. Little bastard. Shouted the bandit, rushing to Naruto with an axe in his hands. Uzumaki stood, and was completely inactive. He was already in front of Naruto, but he stood, and did not move. Die. Blow on the head with an axe, and the former Jinchuriki boy turned into smoke. What? The bandit did not understand, but it was too late. From behind someone grabbed him by the head, and put the blade of the sword to his throat, after which he cold-bloodedly cut his throat. The body fell to the ground. Yeah. Rabble. Naruto shoved his sword into its sheath, and looked at the 5 corpses that lay around. Still, theory is cool, but… He looked at the wound on his right hand, but more practice is needed. I learned the basics. We need to work further in order to be able to master Kenjutsu at a decent level. Well, it's time. Naruto took the scroll, and went outside to practice. From that day on, hard training began for Naruto. Wielding a sword was easy for him. He mastered everything quickly. He was so carried away by this that he did not even notice that after a few months, his body completely recovered. 100%. He soon realized this, but he was in no hurry to learn techniques. He really enjoyed wielding the sword and, Besides, he was very good at it. He soon began to learn how to skip and use chakra on edged weapons. He learned that it is better to use the wind chakra, and also that the lightning chakra can also be used in battle, and the fact that it is slightly inferior to the wind, and then only because lightning is weaker than the wind. This made him start teaching the elements. And the first thing that was needed was to find out what your element was, but the answer to this question was quickly found. Each scroll with the elemental techniques that he stole said that there are special pieces of paper. I had to go into the city, but he didn't want to stick out, so he used the transformation technique. After running a little around the city, he found the right store, where it was sold. After consulting with the seller on how to use them, it is good that the seller was a former shinobi, and bought a few. And of course, the first thing he did, when he returned to the shelter, was to try to find out his element. There were 3 of them: wind, lightning, fire. This made him very happy. But I still had to master them. It's time to learn new things. Konoha stayed awake while Naruto was training. The search for the thief did not stop for a minute. Jiraiya left the village, explaining this as gathering information. With each passing day, the hopes of finding him became less and less. A long time passed, and he could already be miles from Konoha. The elders were already pressing on Tsunade from everywhere. Danzo was an exception. He just disappeared, lay low and did not stick out. Tsunade was beginning to think he was up to something. But the news that his ANBU patrols were looking for something was reassuring. The news from Jiraiya also came not happy. He could not find anything. Besides, the thought that it was all Naruto did not leave the 5th, but she did not want to think about it. And so time flew by, and the hope of finding him faded, but Tsunade was still confident that he would show up. 2 years later, stretched Naruto slept well. He jumped to his feet, and then just as quickly rushed out of his hideout. His path lay to a small lake nearby, where he constantly took a morning bath. This morning was no exception. Naruto walked slowly towards his soul. He listened to the singing of birds, bathed in the rays of the sun. As soon as the lake appeared on the horizon, he immediately rushed to it, undressing on the go, and jumping into the water with a bomb. "Well, how?" he shouted, emerging. During these 2 years, he has changed a lot. Grew up, pumped up. The training was also not in vain. 3 wind element techniques. Wind stream, sweep, vacuum bullets. 2 lightning. Lightning strike and lightning web. And 4 fires. Fire flame, dragon flame, phoenix flowers, fireball. And also high mastery of kenjutsu. He could pass the wind and lightning chakra through the sword. And only the first stages of possession of Hiraishin. He owned it weakly. The distance to which he could move was no more than 10 meters, and that almost always failed. Naruto lay on the river bank and looked thoughtfully at the sky. Suddenly he got up and went to his hideout. There, he took his sword and strapped it on his back. It's time to get down to business, otherwise it's already. Jijiro. Evening. Jijiro is a small town in the country of rice fields, nothing unremarkable, except that bandits, robbers and other rabble like to gather here. It is also home to a distant relative of the dame of the rice fields country, who does not have a very good reputation. It was already beginning to get dark. The sun was almost hidden behind the horizon. It can be hectic here in the evening, But Naruto was not afraid. His target was the Black Blade Bar. Here Naruto hoped to find some information about where he could earn some extra money. The money was almost out, so I had to look for a job. Already approaching the bar, he heard screams, laughter. It was strange that no one was on the street. Now, he was already standing in front of the doors, inhaled more air, and pushed the door. With a creak, the door slowly opened and Uzumaki entered, but no one even glanced at the guest. Everyone went about their business. Naruto walked slowly behind the bar. "What do you want?" the bartender asked the guest. It was a guy of 25-30 years old, black hair, thin mustache, black eyes. "Tea," Naruto replied. This surprised the bartender a little, but still fulfilled the order. "And who are you? Haven't I seen you here before?" asked the bartender, serving a cup of tea. No one. I'm no one for you," Naruto replied and sipped a little. "You're some kind of strange," noticed the bartender. "Mask, stranger, you order tea, and you look like a teenager in height." "Perhaps," Naruto replied and sipped a little more. Utaka," the bartender introduced himself. "The owner of this establishment." "Introducing yourself late," said Uzumaki. "I'm not taught manners. So why are you here? Is there a reason?" Utaka began to wipe the mugs. "Yes," Naruto replied and put down the cup. "I'm looking for a mission, a task where you can earn extra money." "Oh," Utaka didn't surprise, but brought a smile to his face. So, he leaned on the counter to be closer to Naruto. "A relative of the daimyo, who lives here would like to hire someone to do one of his assignments," Utaka explained in a whisper. "That's how. Now I understand why he has a bad reputation." Utaka smiled, but his smile quickly faded. One of the visitors came up to the bar. A pumped-up boy, dressed in only rags. "Hey, Utaka," he called to the bartender. "Give me more beer." His eyes fell on Naruto, who was just drinking tea. It caused a fit of laughter in the bandit. "Ha ha 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 ha. Here. Aren't you lost, kid?" But Naruto pretended not to hear. "Hey, dwarf, I'm talking to you." But Naruto continued to ignore. This angered the thug, and he knocked the cup out of his hands. "And now you will speak." Naruto's answer was simple. He quickly grabbed his sword, and with one swing, cut the bandit's throat. He fell to the ground, and began to bleed. "Ha ha 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 ha." All present laughed. "Seriously, you need it?" someone shouted in addition. "Here." Utaka handed some piece of paper to Naruto. "Take it. They will let you see him with it." "Thanks." Naruto put some coins on the table, and left. Lasuo Netsu, that was the name of the customer. He lived outside the town on a hill, in a large house, which could be seen from everywhere, from any point in the city. It was there that Naruto was going. The first mission was just around the corner. And so he went out to the hill. As it turned out, the house was fenced off with a 2.5-meter stone fence, and a huge gate, guarded by 2 mercenaries. This surprised Naruto, very much indeed. After all, a relative of Dame, but uses the services of mercenaries. Everything became clear. But this did not stop him. He went to the gate. "Stop." One guard stopped him. "Who are you? What do you need?" Naruto didn't say anything, but just pulled out the piece of paper that Utaka had given. The mercenary took it, looked it up, and gave it to the second. He looked too. Naruto got the impression they couldn't read. But the second, looking, gave it to Naruto, and then opened the gate. "Follow me," he said. Naruto followed him, so as not to talk about Basuo, but he loved beauty. Fountains, a lawn, ornamental bushes, and the house was simply amazing. It was no less beautiful inside, but the owner did not let him look around. Basuo Netsu is short, with black hair and brown eyes, and is dressed in expensive clothes that Dame himself wears. "Koji, who did you bring? I asked you not to let anyone in." "But he has." "Basuo-sama, I came for a mission." Naruto took the floor. "Yes?" Basuo walked over, and snatched the paper from Naruto's hands, and began to read. "Yes. This is mine." "Well?" He gave Naruto an appraising glance, and then sharply shifted his gaze to Koji. He made it clear to leave them alone, and the mercenary left. "I think you want to know the terms of the mission." Naruto nodded. "So, there is a necklace in one neighboring town. Expensive, very expensive. It lies in a safe place, as it is a symbol of the same town." "Clear? What kind of town?" "Gorodenge? Fee? Will not disappoint." "Okay," Naruto said and left. The next day, Gorodenge. Naruto sat on the roof of a house, and looked at a large tower-like building. This was where the necklace was kept. A lot of guards. Too many. He continued to scan the building. "It's not a way out. I don't want to make a lot of noise." He raised his head up, and began to look around the sky. "Or maybe by the light of the moon," he suggested. "I'm becoming Shikamaru. But oh well." His attention turned to the tower again. "So today at midnight." Midnight? It was midnight outside. The stars were shining brightly in the sky, and a large moon was shining. Naruto stood on the roof of one of the houses, and watched as the guards with lanterns in their hands patrolled the area around the tower. "It's time." Naruto climbed down from the roof of the house, and headed for the tower. Having come close enough, he hid in the shadow of one of the houses, and began to wait for the next patrol to pass. And then he appeared on the horizon. They carefully checked everything and went on. Naruto was at a decent distance, so they could not find him, and when they completely disappeared, somewhere behind the other side of the tower, Uzumaki emerged from his hiding place, and headed towards the building, and began to climb vertically. One window was open, and Naruto immediately used it to get inside. Half of the work was done. All that remained was to find that necklace. He headed for the stairs that led up. Then a corridor began, and again a staircase, and again a corridor. And then Naruto bumped into the door. He opened it, and it turned out to be a big mistake. There were guards behind her. About 10. "Lazha." Naruto pulled out his sword. "Grab the robber." Everyone shouted and, grabbing spears, ran to Naruto. The first ran up to him, and swung his spear. Naruto walked away, and then grabbed the spear, and pulled it towards himself. The guard did not expect this, and was immediately pierced with a sword. The next two entered from the sides, but paid off a little. Naruto jumped up in time, and they pierced themselves. Another tried to knock Naruto down by throwing a spear at him, but Uzumaki dodged, and went down behind the backs of two more, and with one swing of the sword, killed them. The four surrounded Naruto, leaving no escape route. "Give up." One shouted. "No," Naruto said, and a smoke bomb fell out of his sleeve. Smoke began to fill the room. Naruto took advantage of this. He created 3 clones, after which he went behind each of the 4 guards with them, and cut their throats. Only the one who threw the spear remained. Naruto decided to have mercy on him, and simply knocked him out. He walked on, again the stairs, but this time without corridors, but straight to the very top to the necklace. I had to hurry, as the noise began below. Most likely, they heard my scuffle. We must hurry. Naruto sped up a bit, and soon climbed to the very top of the room, where this necklace was kept. Naruto literally burst into this hall. The necklace was on a bust at the end of the same room. The shouts of the guards were heard closer and closer. Naruto quickly grabbed the necklace, and put it in the pouch, and then just as quickly opened the nearest window, and jumped out of it. He was in free fall and, in order to slow down the landing, Naruto drew his sword and, having charged with wind chakra, stuck it into the wall of the tower. It was good that it was made of wood. So he was able to calmly descend to the ground. Surprisingly, there were no guards. Again, everything fell into the hands of Naruto, and he hurried to leave the city. Morning. Yasuo Netsu's house. That was not said about Yasuo, but this man liked to wake up very early, to watch the rising sun from the balcony, over a cup of tea. It seemed to calm him down. This morning was no exception. Going out onto the balcony with a cup of tea, he began to observe how the first rays of the sun fell on this earth. What could be better? He said, sipping a little. Necklace with rubies, diamonds and other knickknacks, Naruto replied, standing behind his employer. The surprise made Yasuo startled, and let go of the cup, and it shattered. How dare you disturb such a calm morning? Yasuo didn't like it very much, and he just decided to swear at Naruto, but when Uzumaki showed the necklace he fell silent. Give it here, demanded Netsu. Money first. Follow me. Naruto followed Yasuo. He brought him to one room. It was just a golden room. There were many valuable things everywhere. Anything your heart desires. Here, Yasuo held out the briefcase. Naruto immediately took it and opened it. There was a lot of money. Okay. Naruto closed the case, and handed over the necklace. Good day, Naruto said and left. After walking far enough away, Naruto stopped and looked at Yasuo's house. It's good that in this town, every jeweler makes similar ones. Naruto pulled out the original, and began to examine, and then looked at Yasuo's house again. I wonder how long it will take before he realizes that this is a fake. Anyway, Naruto tucked the necklace back into the pouch, and then went into town to sell the trinket somewhere. The beginning of a new life. Part 3. Wanted. The beginning of a new life. Part 3. Wanted. After the mission that Yasuo gave, things went smoothly. For 2 weeks, he completed a number of tasks that were given to him by different people. One of the missions was to escort a convoy, one merchant. It was an easy task. As it turned out, the path simply lay through the forest, in which many robbers like to roam. It was boring. Only a couple of bandits got in the way. All the way, he just waited for the mission to end in order to receive payment. Another mission was contract assassination. One very influential person had to be killed. Plus the price was very, very good, so Naruto didn't refuse. He lived in a small estate. Modest, at first glance, but in fact it was expensive, even too much. Nobody guarded him. He lived with his family, a wife, and 2 children. Then pity played. Naruto did not want to kill him in front of children, so he waited for the right moment. The estate stood in the middle of a huge field of wheat. There was not a soul around, and it was too far from the city. Every day Naruto sat on the branch of a huge tree that grew nearby, and was the only huge plant in the area. Day after day went by, and Zimuro, that was his name, did not leave his house in any way. Although lately he very often left on business. Sometimes everything comes to an end, and now was that time. Naruto got tired of sitting and waiting. Realizing that he would not go anywhere in the near future, it was decided to kill him at night, when everyone would be asleep. Naruto spent the whole day sitting under a tree and watching his house. Time passed slowly. The sun slowly moved across the sky, but Uzumaki continued to watch, hoping that he might come out, but it was all in vain. When the last ray of the sun hid behind the horizon, and the moon took the place of the sun, he began to act. Slowly, unhurriedly, hiding in the wheat, he crept up to the house. Approaching a safe distance, he began to wait. So Zimuro came out, gave the dog something to eat and left. According to the plan, he was supposed to go to bed now, and everything happened like this. The lights in the house went out, and everyone went to bed. After waiting another half-hour, when everyone was fast asleep, Naruto began to approach even closer to the house. The dog smelled the stranger's presence, and began to bark. Everything went according to plan. The dog continued to bark, and bark. Eventually the front doors opened, and someone walked out into the street. It was Zimuro. He went to the dog, which continued to bark, even though the owner was already near her. At that moment, Naruto quickly ran up to Zimuro from behind, and slit his throat. He fell dead, bleeding. But then a woman screamed from behind. Naruto turned around, and saw Zimuro's wife. Seeing the killer looking at her, Zimuro's wife froze in fear, and began shaking all over. Naruto looked at her for a minute. And then a child's voice was heard from behind. "Mom, what happened?" The woman looked at her child with fright, and then quickly in the direction where Naruto was standing, but he was no longer there, only a corpse, and a dog, and nothing else, and no one else. Naruto has made good money lately. Now it was necessary to note this, sitting in the bar. But on the way to the bar, he met some kind of convoy. He drove through the city, and headed towards Wasuo Castle. It didn't really interest Naruto, but the information was useful, but he decided that he could wait. "Hey, Utaka, all the drinks at my expense," Naruto shouted from the doorway as he entered the bar. "Oh, devil! For the devil!" Everyone shouted and everyone drank a glass of beer. Recently, Naruto has become famous in the area, and his nickname was known as the Night Devil. All the victims were killed at night, and unnoticed. The inhabitants even began to add legends that he was a messenger of the devil, and his soul was dark and woven from the night. Parents even began to scare their children. Utaka always told Naruto everything, and it made him happy. Wasuo's house. At this time, Wasuo was walking with his wife Zimuro, who arrived in the same convoy today. The children played in the garden, while Wasuo talked. "I sympathize with your loss. Zimuro was a good man. I can't even believe that someone wanted him dead." "You don't have to pretend, Wasuo-sama. I know that my husband was involved in some dark affairs. He told me himself. And about you. But do not be afraid, I will be silent. Haha. I'm not afraid. If he told you, then you are a very trusted person. These words made Zimuro's wife smile lightly. Well, I want to know who killed him. Why? You won't find him anyway. I will find it. Do not hesitate. Describe it to me. Well, I'll try. They sat down on a bench. They looked at the children for a while, and then Miwa suddenly started. It was our last day at home. In the morning we had to leave the country. Zimuro got tired of all this, and decided to start a new quiet life, away from all this. But at night, the dog began to bark. She did not stop for a minute. My husband went to check. A minute later I followed him. And when I went out into the street, then she began to tremble, not cry, but tremble. Z, 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 moo, moo, moo. Row, row, he was dead. She blurted out, and began to cry. And a boy stood over him. All in black. And on the head a crossed-out protector. And then a new wave of tears rolled over her. Wasuo just picked her up, and carried her to the house, where he put her on the bed. He sat with her, calming her as best he could, until she fell asleep. Then he left the room, and a mercenary guard immediately ran up to him. Bring me the devil. If he resists, kill him. The bar continued to have fun. Everyone continued to drink for the devil. Every now and again, Naruto just watched, and laughed when he saw the cheerful people. Utaka did what he just poured and nothing else. It seemed that he didn't even have time to breathe. But all good things come to an end. The bar doors opened, and Wasuo's mercenaries entered. Everyone looked up from their business, and stared at the guests. Night Devil. You come with us. Good. He immediately replied. Continue to have fun without me. I'll be back soon. The mercenaries and Naruto left, and as soon as the door slammed, everyone continued to feast in the same spirit. And where are you taking me? Naruto asked, although he already knew where, but no one answered him. Are we silent? Okay then. And then someone took and punched Naruto on the head, and he fell to the ground unconscious. Naruto woke up somewhere in the basement, and immediately tried to get up, but then it turned out that his arms and legs were chained to the table on which he was lying. He looked left and right and saw nothing but various torture machines, and a couple of torches that lit up the basement. Suddenly there was a creak of a door, and then footsteps were heard. They were getting closer. Wasuo himself approached Naruto, with some kind of mercenary. So, Night Devil, we met again. Wasuo began. Yes. Glad to meet you. Although I imagined it somehow a little differently. Perhaps. Are you avenging that necklace? Naruto asked. No. Wasuo smiled. I sold that fake for a very good price. Plus, I found the original that you sold. Huh? Then why am I here? You, as always, ask the right questions. I like it. Perhaps we once worked together, but not in this life. He went to the next table, and began to look for something there. Zimuro? Does that mean anything to you? Eh? Devil? This alerted Naruto. He began to understand what Wasuo wanted from him. What do you need? Naruto asked. Ooh. Netsu stopped looking and walked over to Naruto. The name of the customer? I don't know his name, Naruto replied. Then we will be in a bad way. I know where to find him, Naruto replied immediately. He is in the capital, in business, staying at the warm chocolate hotel. So easy. I thought you would have to be tortured. And you are all yourself. It's good to deal with you. It's just that you're going to die so soon, Naruto replied calmly. And what will you do? Netsu knocked loudly on the table Naruto was tied to. Bring me his head. I'll be at my place. He turned to the mercenary. Okay, Yasuo-sama. Yasuo and the mercenary left. As soon as the doors closed, Naruto began to try to break free from the shackles by force, but there was no success. He could not use technology. The weapon was unthinkable where. Naruto stared at the ceiling, and stared at it for a while. What if? He closed his eyes. If you stop the flow of chakra, and then suddenly throw it out with all your might, perhaps. He concentrated. Chakra. She slowly began to stop. Minute. 2. Another minute, and chakra splash out. The table under Naruto scattered in different directions. Only the shackles remained, looking like large rings. But this was not a hindrance. Suddenly, the doors began to open slowly. Naruto took the first best he could get to hand. It was a huge garden shears, and jumped to the ceiling. The same mercenary came inside, but now with a huge axe. He immediately saw that there was neither Naruto nor the table. He looked around, and saw only a small mayhem. Meanwhile, Naruto landed behind the mercenary, and before he even knew anything, he cut his neck with a single motion of the scissors. The head flew to the side, the axe fell to the ground, and blood gushed out of the body in a fountain. The body fell to the ground. And then Naruto noticed his sword. It was morning outside. It was dawn. The sun was rising over the horizon. Yasuo, as always, greeted the sunrise with a cup of tea. As soon as the first ray touched Netsu, he sipped a little. I think this setting is fine. Netsu turned around and saw Naruto. Remember this moment. This is the last thing you will see. Stop. Stop. But it was too late. Naruto walked over and stabbed his heart, then drew his sword. Yasuo looked at Naruto, took a few steps back, and rolled over the balcony, and flew down. Naruto looked at the sunrise. The shouts of the mercenaries were heard below. Realizing that Yasuo was dead, everyone rushed to rob his house. In one of the windows, the devil saw Zimuro's wife. Then he turned around and went to the stairs. Naruto went downstairs to where Yasuo's valuable treasure was. The mercenaries stuffed everything they could. When they saw Naruto, they stopped carrying valuables and stared at him. Naruto looked down at his sword, where Yasuo's blood was dripping from its tip. Hey you, get out. Do you hear? I hear. Naruto looked up at the mercenaries, and everyone was immediately horrified. Naruto's eyes instantly changed. The eye turned black, and the iris changed from blue to red. Let's have some fun. He pointed his sword at the mercenaries. Let's see who is who. Naruto came to his senses. He stood in the middle of the hall, and the corpses of mercenaries lay around. Bloody, chopped up, no arms, legs or head. He was horrified by this picture. And the worst thing is that he does not remember the last 10 minutes of his life. His mind was in a blur. Somehow, having gathered himself, he took the bag, loaded it with valuables, and went up to the second floor to Miva and her children. He slowly climbed the stairs and entered her room. They hid behind the bed. Naruto put down the bag of valuables. There is a lot here. To live you will become. This will not restore what I did, but at least I will help somehow. He turned around and wanted to go, but Miwa suddenly broke loose and threw a pillow at him. You bastard. Devil. You will die. I promise. But Naruto did not hear her words. He just went away from it all. It was raining outside. A week has passed since that incident. Now Naruto stood in front of the message board and looked at it. On it was a piece of paper with his picture, and the price of 15,000. Now Konoha will find me quickly. Old Problems. Part 1. Hokage's office. A few weeks later. The stamp hits the paper. Already 100 for today, and the last of the pile that Shizen brought 2 hours ago. Tsunade sighed heavily, leaning back in her chair. The eyes stared at the ceiling for some time, and then fell on the scum, in which the sake was hidden. Tsunade decided to have a drink to cheer up, but footsteps were heard in the hallway, and the doorknob turned. Shizen entered the office with another pile of papers. Shizen. Tsunade hissed through clenched teeth. Excuse me, I understand how tired you are, but these are income and household reports. The end of the month. Yes. Rage turned into surprise. Tsunade looked at the calendar and realized that the assistant was right, and from disappointment, she hit her head on the table and remained there. I do not believe. Month. It was like drinking with Jiraiya, Tsunade recalled. This stack is also all for today, Shizen encouraged the teacher. Okay. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Having received permission, Katsu entered the office. Hokage-sama, you have a message from Jiraiya-san. Katsu walked over to the table and handed the scroll, and then left the office. Tsunade opened the scroll. Surprise appeared on her face, and then anger. Inside was a portrait of a boy with black hair and a mask, signed as Night Devil, and with a price tag of R$15,000. She squeezed a piece of paper and slammed her hand into the chair. Shizen. Urgently gather 3 teams. You need to find him and bring him to Konoha. What is Tsunade-sama in the scroll? Could not understand Shizen. Fulfill. Tsunade shouted and slammed the table again. Shizen ran out of the office and rushed down the hallway. Tsunade leaned back. 2 years, and only now he showed up. Half an hour later, a team of 9 people gathered in the Hokage's office. Shikamaru, Ino, Chaoji, Neji, Ten, Rock Lee, Might Guy, Asuma and Kakashi. The first 6 matured, changed their image, and became Chunin in those 2 years. Now they stood and listened to the mission instructions. Kakashi was staring at a crumpled piece of paper with a picture of Night Devil with a price tag on it. 2 years, Kakashi remarked and handed the scroll to Asuma, who was standing behind. Yes. He was hiding under our noses. In a neighboring country. This was sent by Jiraiya. To this he passed on a small letter, in which he said that he received this price for the murder of Wasuo Netsu, a relative of the feudal lord of the country of the rice fields. He does not know the details, but the letter said that he is very bloodthirsty, and has an unusual style. And as he also said, On a white day he cannot be caught, although it is very easy to identify. In other words, this guy is contradictory in his actions, and it is difficult to understand him. Sinead told the details, while the wanted sheet passed from hand to hand. Probably now, it will be more difficult. He is already aware of his search, so he will not walk around on a white day. Moreover, he knows about what he did in the past, and knows that Konoha will come first, and therefore he will go away from there. Why are you so sure, Asuma? Sinead asked. That's what I would do, he replied. And what are our priorities? Decided to clarify Shikamaru. Now for the details, Sinead continued. You go to the city of Jiaojiro. This is where you begin your search. In recent times, he has been there often. Perhaps his lair is nearby. Try to find it. You are given 3 weeks to complete. If nothing is found, the next team will replace you. Your top priority will be to find the scrolls he stole 2 years ago, as well as get any information about him. But I thought our main task was to neutralize the devil. Interrupted Hawkeye guy. We don't know how strong he is. I can't take risks, Sinead explained. 15,000 is not such a big price, and one squad would be able to handle it, Yamanaka noted. He stole the scrolls. If he sold them, he first pulled out everything he could. And they carry the secrets of many techniques. Therefore, finding them is a priority. Engage in battle when absolutely necessary. Any questions? And why the Night Devil? Neji asked. Of course the name speaks for itself, but I would like to know more. Sinead turned serious and worried on her face. It's separate. All of his victims were killed at night. He never acts during the day. Therefore, be careful when you sleep. Chief on Kakashi's mission. All clear. Yes. Get started. A few hours later, the team gathered at the main gate. Kakashi explained the route. Of course, without guys we'll run it in a day. Hatake was able to pacify him. Along the way, the team took a few breaks to discuss a plan for future action. Kakashi immediately gave instructions not to openly enter alone. Since almost nothing is known about the devil, and he does not want to take risks. In other words, he simply repeated what Sinead had said earlier. Also, Hatake ordered to carefully guard Ino, because she is the only doctor. He knew that Yamanaka could stand up for herself, but something inside told him that. Ino was even indignant herself, but the order was an order. She could not enter into battle without an order. Kakashi was constantly alarmed. It looked like nothing special, but something worried him. His gut told him that something bad was going to happen. He looked at the team. Everyone was so cheerful. No excitement, no fear, as if it was necessary to catch the cat now. In addition, he is crushed by the latest events. Sasuke left. Naruto died. Sakura was grieving over Naruto's death. She cried constantly, recalled his promise that he made, that he would return Sasuke, from which she roared even more. And Kakashi couldn't do anything. Once she said that it would be better to die, and that same day she went to the hospital. She swallowed pills. He asked Sinead to take care of her. Sakura soon recovered. Sinead took it seriously. She taught medical jutsu and gave her a new purpose. After that, Sakura forgot about everything. Sasuke didn't care. Her only goal was to save lives in the hospital. And every day after work, she came to Naruto's grave, bringing flowers. Once they met at Naruto's grave, and she said that going to the hospital then was a salvation for her. She was able to get up and start a new life. Kakashi was happy for her, but still, he believed that Naruto was alive, just somewhere hiding from the world, and soon he would return. A few days later, the team arrived at the site. They went to the hotel and rented several rooms, or rather 5. After settling down, everyone went to the center of the city, from where their mission was to begin. Gathering up, Kakashi began handing out assignments. We operate in teams of 3. Each will have their own task. And so, the first team. Neji, Shikamaru, Asuma, your task is to comb the area around the city. Perhaps you will find something. Stay together, and that's not enough. Me, Guy and Lee will form the third team. We will go to Netsu's house, inspect the scene of the incident, maybe it will give something. Shaoji, 1010, Ino, you ask the locals if someone knows, or has seen something. It's clear to everyone. Yes. Everybody left. Only Ino 1010 and Shaoji remained. First, they turned around, trying to find a place to start their search. And where? 1010 asked. Probably there. Ino pointed to the diner. Meanwhile, Guy, Kakashi, and Lee made it to Asuo's house. It was fenced off with tape, but not guarded. All 3 quietly walked inside. There was nothing inside the mansion. Empty. Some walls. They went into the main hall. That was the most interesting part. There is blood everywhere. The bodies were taken out, but the blood remained everywhere, even though it was dried up, noted Hatake. I wonder what happened here. Guy looked around. Slaughterhouse, Kakashi stated, going up to the wall, where there was a drizzle of blood, and held his hand. He walked a whole circle along the wall, running his hand along it. During this time, Lee and Guy watched Hatake. After completing the circle, Kakashi stopped. His gaze fell to the floor. So he walked along the room, with dull eyes down. Are you okay? Guy worried. Kakashi squatted down, but said nothing. He just ran his hand across the floor. Then he got up and went upstairs from the hall. The guys in green only accompanied him. Entering the small room, he stopped, looked around and left. And then he went to the chambers of Netsu himself, as he thought, and then went out onto the balcony. There was a trace of tea on the floor. Kakashi cast his gaze over the city. And what was that? Guy asked as he approached. He's dangerous. So much blood. He must have cut everyone left and right there, and then he dragged something upstairs to that room. How do you understand that, Kakashi-sensei? Lee jumped up with burning eyes. Looked closely at the details. I will learn this lesson, sensei. Lee cried and jumped up. Then there was silence, which was violated by Kakashi himself. I'm not comfortable with this place. Guy was surprised. This mission would rather be over. Hatake sighed. What's the matter? You are not yourself. I haven't seen you like that in a long time. From my youth, I guess. Lee, go to Asuma. Help him with the search. Yes, the boy shouted, and ran towards the city. So what worries you? Guy returned to the topic of conversation. Not what, but who. He is great with a sword. He doesn't care for rabble. And before that, he flunked an entire ANBU squad. You have to be more careful, otherwise I have goosebumps for some reason. Probably everything is too serious, even if you have goosebumps. Not so much goosebumps as foreboding. Yeah, okay. Guy slapped Kakashi on the shoulder. Let's go and sit. I'll catch up with you. Woo-oh. This is a challenge, well, good. Come on if you can. Guy jumped over the railing and ran into the town. Kakashi stared after him for a while and then followed. Ino's team entered the bar. There were several thugs inside, who immediately fell silent upon seeing the Konoha shinobi. The trio made their way to the bar. What do you want? The bartender asked. Information, Ino replied. HMMM. It's been a long time since the Konoha shinobi have been around. And what brings you? The bartender continued. Ino pointed to the portrait of the devil on the notice board. You can't compete with him. What? Ten grabbed the bartender by the collar and knocked on the counter. Ten is calmed her friend Ino, and she let go. My name is Vakata. The bartender introduced himself. Ino. And this is 1010, and Chowji. Very nice. The blonde smiled. So, Ino decided to continue the conversation. I don't know where he is, and where the refuge is, too. This is so that you do not ask unnecessary questions, explained Vakata. Then what will you tell us about the incident at the Yasuo house? Nothing, nobody knows for sure. He just walked in, cut them all out, and left. I see. Ino was disappointed. But, at the other end of the city lives one bandit. They say he saw everything, as he worked for Netsa. Helped. Thank you. Ino winked and left the bar with the company. On the way, they met Kakashi and Guy, and together they walked towards that house. Asuma's team decided to split up. Neji went alone, as the Byakugan gives him more options. And Asuma and Shikamaru are together, since 4 eyes are better than 2. They rode all the way, but found nothing. Their search ended when sunset began, and Asuma decided to return to the rendezvous point. Neji is much more fortunate. He took refuge underground and decided to risk going there. Torches burned inside. There was a lot of gold and jewelry, but a backpack caught the eye. Neji took it and looked inside. There were scrolls, the same ones. A smile appeared in Hugo's eyes, and he went to the meeting place. In the meantime, the Kakashi delegation made their way to the house of that thug. Hatake knocked. Nobody answered. He knocked again, louder, but nothing. Then he handed the case over to Guy, and he just kicked down the doors. They went inside. There was a mess all around. Lots of sake bottles, and they stank. The owner himself lay in the middle of the guest room, if it was a guest room, in a heap of garbage. Guy came up first and kicked him several times. He grumbled something, but did not rise. Guy kicked him again, but with all his might. The poor fellow has already turned over. Painfully. The owner of the house got up and took a sitting position. He began to look around at the guests. He looked like a pig. Well, the shape of the face is exactly that, covered in mud. The eyes are red. There are bags under the eyes. Who you are? What do you need? He asked and began to look for something near him. I am Hatake Kakashi, and this? He pointed to the others. My team. We came to inquire about what happened at Yasuo Netsu's house. My name is Mikaro So. Finally finding a bottle of sake, He sipped. What do you specifically want to know? So asked calmly. Does our presence bother you? Kakashi was surprised. Not at all. After what I saw, nothing will surprise me. He took another sip. His hands shook for a moment, but he only squeezed tighter. He was being held hostage, Mikero began. How he got out I have no idea. But one thing I can say for sure, soon it was supposed to be dawn. Yasuo loved this natural phenomenon and watched it. At that moment, the devil appeared. He drove his sword into Netsa. He fell from the balcony. As soon as we saw this, without thinking, we ran into the house to pick up everything of value. This is where it started. He overtook us when we were in the hall. His eyes were red. Sharingan. Interrupted Hatake. No, not a Sharingan. It was not a technique. He swallowed the lump. It was rage and bloodthirstiness, and then he got busy with us. Flashback. The first bandit rushed at the devil, but he simply took a step to the side, and in 2 quick movements, cut off first his hand, and then his head. The next attacker was pierced in the stomach with a sword, and opened his mouth to scream, and then the devil thrust the sword into him there. Then he chopped off the leg of the next one. Everyone froze. The devil, filled with rage, walked and killed. The next he thrust his sword into the neck, and with a sharp movement, he drew his weapon, and cut off the legs of the enemy standing behind. He fell, and the devil finished him off, chopping his head in half. The next got off, with a pierced chest. And then everyone started to run. But those who ran around the devil lost their legs, arms and heads. The devil was a meat grinder that chopped everyone. End flashback. And only I managed to escape. Kakashi looked at the faces of his comrades. They froze in horror. Thank you. Kakashi stood up. Sorry for the door. Never mind. The team made their way to the exit, and then to the hotel. A surprise awaited them there. Upon entering the hotel, Kakashi received good news. Asuma, Neji and Shikamaru sat in the latter's room, and waited for the others to arrive. When they arrived, Shikamaru called everyone to his place. Kakashi's surprise knew no bounds. Where? Kakashi asked, picking up one of the scrolls. There is one shelter nearby, and that's where I found it. But there was a lot of things, a lot of values. They don't bother us. We will go home tomorrow. Where is Lee? Ten asked. I don't know, Neji replied. He was supposed to be with Kakashi and Gai-sensei. I sent him to help you. Everyone was alarmed at the moment. He's training, I guess. Go to me. Gai burst into tears. Okay. Gai, Asuma, Shikamaru, Neji, follow me. Everyone else rest. Ordered Hatake. 5 went to Kakashi's room. He decided to discuss the next steps. Neji and 10 went downstairs. Ino went to the room to receive, and Chaoji, as relies on the kitchen. Lee could not find Asuma's team, and ran through the forest until the evening. Now he was heading back to the hotel. It was already dark on the street. There was not a soul. In the distance was the sign of the hotel, and behind was the screams of bandits and robbers from the bar. Suddenly, Lee heard the girls scream, and rushed into the alley from which a request for help came. In the alleyway, some guy pinned the girl to the wall, and threatened the girl. Let her go. The bandit turned towards Lee. Meanwhile, the girl, taking advantage of the moment, hit the bastard in the balls. He fell, and began to run away, saying, "Thank you," running near Lee. "Oh, you." The bandit got up, but was immediately knocked down by Lee. "And so that he no longer pesters the girls? Understood?" Picked up his student Guy by the collar. The bandit nodded, after which Lee released him, and he ran away. "That's a good thing," Lee smiled. Lee was about to leave. "But I did a good job with him, but you have to kill them on the spot. They don't learn anything." Lee turned, and saw the devil standing a few steps away from him. "You?" Lee swung to strike, but was immediately stabbed in the stomach with a sword. "If you survive, or will be able to, convey to your friends that the same fate awaits them." With these words he pulled out his sword, turned around and left. Lee fell to one knee, and grabbed the wound. Blood flowed from his mouth. 10-10, and Neji were sitting downstairs at the entrance. 10-10 was staring at a magazine. Neji leaned back in the chair, and tapped his fingers on the armrest. This continued for a while until he failed, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" 10 asked, putting the magazine aside. "I'll go look for Lee. He's gone too long." Hugo stopped at the door. "I'm with you." 10 got up from the chair. At that moment, the door opened in front of Neji, and he saw Lee holding onto the wound in his stomach, and staggering on his legs. "Help me," he croaked and began to fall. Neji grabbed him immediately. "Ino!" He shouted that the whole hotel, and not only the hotel, heard, trying to pull Lee inside. 10 took Lee from the other side, helping to carry Neji. In a minute, Ino ran out with wet hair, and screaming, "What the hell?" Or then this terrible picture appeared in front of Ino. "Faster to my room." Everyone else ran out to the screams, and were also horrified, but then all together began to help Neji, and 10-10. As quickly as possible, they carried Lee into the room, and laid her on the bed. "Free his body," commanded Ino. Neji quickly unbuttoned the Chunin's vest, and then tore the tights on his body. Then Ino came up. Her hands glowed green, and she placed them on Lee's wound. For a while everyone stood and watched, and then Guy could not resist, and rushed somewhere. Kakashi realized where he ran off, and ran after him. He caught up with him on the street. "Stop, Guy!" Tugged Kakashi on the shoulder of his comrade. "Don't hold me. I'll end it all now." Guy dismissed. "You cannot do it this way. One by one, he will kill us all." Tried to convince Kakashi. "Don't give a damn. I will finish him off there, and put an end to this." Guy took off headlong down the main street. "And how will you find him?" Kakashi asked after. "He will find me himself." "Stop." Kakashi in one jerk found himself in front of Guy. "Lee is not dead. No need to take revenge. The main thing now is to stick together. We'll catch him." "Okay." Guy turned and walked to the hotel. They went back to Lee's room. Ino continued the operation. Everyone stood in silence and watched. After about 15 minutes, Ino sighed heavily, and wiped her forehead with her hand. "Everything." Damanako was joyful. "It's good that the injury was not so serious. He will be all right." She turned to everyone. "He needs peace. At least a few days. He has lost too much blood, and needs to recover. Therefore, we will have to stay here for a while." No, Kakashi took the floor. Tomorrow morning Asuma, Choji, Tenten and Neji will go to Konoha with the scrolls. The rest will stay here. Isn't it better for us to be together? Themselves said that you need to stick together, repeated the words of Neji Kakashi. Yes, but with these scrolls we are in greater danger. Therefore, we need to get to Konoha as soon as possible. I agree with Neji, this is a risk, and a big responsibility. Supported Asuma Neji. Then you take everything, but one will remain with Kakashi-sensei. Thus, we will somehow secure ourselves. At that time we will endanger ourselves. Sticking to the heap isn't an option either. He will find a loophole, and then he will suffer more. As well as one by one. Any option is dangerous. We do not know which one is correct. But let's check it out by choosing one. Shikamaru mused aloud. So, what do you suggest? Asuma asked. One remains. The rest you will deliver. That's all. Posted the idea of Nara. So be it. Kakashi agreed. Everyone, get out of here. Shouted Ino. We've built a bazaar here. Whether you need peace, I'll stay. Guy stepped forward. Well, call me if that. And you are on the way out. Ino began to push everyone out the door, and she was the last to leave. And where should we go? Suddenly asked Yamanaka, leaving the room. Go with Tenten, and I'll go to Asuma, Kakashi suggested. Okay. Ino grabbed Ten by the arm, and they went. The others also dispersed. Shikamaru and Choji in one, Neji in the other. Kakashi and Asuma went outside. There Asuma opened a new pack of cigarettes, and lit a cigarette. First time today, Asuma remarked, exhaling smoke. Be careful tomorrow. Don't be afraid of Kakashi, everything will be fine. We will deliver them. Asuma breathed out the smoke again. Good. They stood there for a while. Asuma finished his smoking, and went inside. Kakashi stood like this for about 10 minutes. And he also went to the hotel. The morning was good. There was not a cloud in the sky. Only the sun was gaining momentum, and was getting hotter, and hotter. Kakashi accompanied the team. Kakashi sent a letter ahead, and then the team moved on. It was hot. I had to make many stops. By noon, they had advanced far. There remained a day's journey to the border. They moved along the river, but then the river ran underground. Asuma decided to head towards the road. And so they did. Suddenly, along the way, something alarmed Neji, and in a minute he realized that something was wrong. To the sides. The team rushed in different directions. An explosion thundered. I thought who'd get caught. The devil has landed on the wreckage. Asuma took out his brass knuckles. Neji strained his eyes. Tenten pulled out the scrolls. Choji clenched his fists. Get out of my way. Asuma commanded. Give back what the boy with the Byakugan has in his backpack. Where are you from? The devil grabbed his sword, pulled it out of its scabbard, and charged it with wind chakra. Scrolls, the apostate repeated. No, Asuma replied. The devil jumped up, and with a swing of his sword, caused a stream of air that flew towards the Konoha shinobi. They went to the sides, but the blow threw them further. Pieces of trees flew to the sides. This is power. Asuma was surprised, and charged the knuckles with wind chakra. Cover me. Choji, Neji, Tenten. Kakashi stood on the roof of the hotel, and watched the sun set. A little, but still he feared for the team. Both for those who went to Konoha, and those who were inside the hotel. Lee got better, according to Ino, and everything seemed to be coming to an end, but the foreboding did not leave him, as if something was going to happen very soon. He felt the same way when his friends died, but then he did not show it. It was the same when Naruto died. And now again. But he just dropped those thoughts. Now he stood, and did not think about anything, but only looked at the sunset. The sun went down the horizon. The trees cast their shadows, and the last rays made their way through them. The devil stood in front of Asuma safe and sound, or nearly unharmed. Asuma, on the other hand, was also standing, but it was clear from his face how painful he was, and how he endured pain. There was a wound in his right side, not deep, but that was enough. Somewhere to the side was Neji, leaning against a tree, and holding on to his right shoulder, which had been pierced through. Somewhere further away, Ten and Chaoji lay, unharmed, but unconscious. Asuma tightened his grip on the brass knuckles. The devil held the sword. Saratobi understood now, or never rushed forward. The devil threw the sword up. The sword flew upward, swinging slowly over the heads of the renegade and the jounin. Asuma was already approaching, already raised his hand to strike, and already directed it to the opponent's head, but in a second, only something black flashed before his eyes, and there was no one there. And in the same second there was a blow from above, with a foot to the head. Asuma took a step and, losing his balance, fell. But he did not lie, and began to rise immediately. Lie. There was a shout, and someone's leg pressed Asuma to the ground. Don't rock the boat. After that there was another blow to the head, after which Saratobi passed out. The devil looked at Asuma's face, bloody and swollen. Then he looked around, as if looking for someone. Fallen trees all around, and a lot of wood chips. Finally he spotted Hugo and followed him, dragging the blade of his sword along the ground. Neji tried to get up, but it looked pathetic. Somehow he did it. In a moment, he was grabbed by the throat, and pinned to a tree behind. Scrolls. The devil brought the blade of the sword to Neji's right eye. The Hyuga said nothing. The apostate turned the sword in his hand, and stabbed the hilt in the stomach. Neji doubled over. Bastard. Neji hissed. What do you think? The devil in one motion cut off the straps of the backpack, and took it. The apostate climbed up a tree, where he opened his backpack. There were scrolls inside, but not all. The devil closed his backpack. Where are the others? That's what I told you. Neji hissed. The apostate went downstairs, and checked the others' backpacks just in case. There were no scrolls anywhere. The devil just scratched the back of his head, and looked at Neji again. He continued to stand on all fours. Then the apostate reached into the pouch, and took out a small pouch. Take these pills. It will numb the pain for a while. The devil dropped the pouch, and he fell in front of Neji. Why? The Hyuga asked. I kept you alive, but this is only this time. Drink them, and help that jounin. He pointed to Asuma. Otherwise he will die from blood loss. With these words, he moved somewhere deep into the forest, leaving his victims behind. Neji stayed to look at that pouch. He could not dare to take it. Suddenly it is poison. But looking at Asuma and the others, I realized that something had to be done. Asuma continued to bleed, and Neji himself was in that position. But there were Ten and Chaoji. who were simply knocked out for a long time. There was no time to think. Neji took the bag and opened it. There were small black pills inside. Neji took one and swallowed, then just lay down, holding onto the wound in his shoulder. After a few minutes, he began to feel a surge of energy. The pain went away little by little. Clenching his fists, he tried to get up. Of course, it didn't work the first time, but it worked. He walked slowly, holding onto the wound. That the pain of the pill stopped, but not the bleeding. When he reached 10, he fell on his knees in front of her. He wanted to get a flask of water, but remembered that the devil took the backpack. But then he immediately remembered that 10 also had the flask. He took her backpack, which was lying nearby. He took the flask and unrolled it, then took a little water in his mouth. The next step, he hit her several times in the face, and then pissed water from his mouth at her. No effect. He repeated the steps again and again. Finally, for the third time, her eyes opened and froze in horror. Neji. 10 was blown up from the place. No time to explain. The effect of the pills ends. Bring up Chaoji. What pills? I do not understand. She looked around, and was horrified again. No time. Quicker. 10-10. He urged the teammate. Meanwhile, at the hotel, everyone was minding their own business. Shikamaru was lying somewhere on the roof, looking at the evening clouds. Kakashi and Guy were in Lee's temporary ward. Soon he will come to his senses. Delighted Ino, after the examination. He's on the mend. Well done, Lee. Keep it up. Guy dropped his head on Kakashi's shoulder, and cried tears of joy. Hatache said nothing. He understood his friend's emotions. Suddenly the door opened with a bang, almost flying into the air. Shikamaru ran into the room, fear on his face. Chaoji followed, carrying a bleeding Asuma, followed by 10-10 with Neji on his shoulder. Heck! Ino screamed. What? There was shock on Kakashi and Guy's faces. Hurry, put it here. Shikamaru shouted. Chaoji quickly laid Asuma on the bed next to Lee's. Help him faster. Neji shouted as best he could. Heck! What to do? Ino clutched her head. Get it together. Shikamaru immediately went to the blonde and, grabbing, began to shake her. Help sensei. Ino shook her head and fell to her knees beside Asuma. He needs a transfusion. Ino declared immediately. Take mine. We have the same groups. The Nara began to roll up his sleeve. 10. Chaoji. Gai-sensei, help me now. Kakashi-sensei. Take Neji and stop the bleeding by any means possible. I'll fix it later. Ino's scream brought Kakashi out of his trance. Without thinking, he walked over to 10 and took Neji away. He took him to his room. There, he put Neji on the bed. Then he began to rummage through the pouch. It was the devil he. Don't bother, now shut up, and gather your strength. Kakashi took out 2 kunai. Snacks. Kakashi put the hilt of the kunai to Neji's mouth, and he bit it with his teeth. And now bear with that, there are relics. It will hurt. The backpack flew to the side. He himself fell to his knees, in front of the river. He took off his mask, and began to spit blood. Every now and again. Then he washed his face, rolled over and fell on his back. Bloody Neji. Damn Asuma. Bloody Hurricane. Cursed everything Naruto. Still a little, and I would have died there on the spot. He turned his gaze to the backpack containing the scrolls, and then to the moon. It was dark. Night has come. Without further ado, he pulled the mask over his face. Has risen. I took my backpack and walked in the direction of the city. All gathered in the temporary hospital. Everything went well. Asuma's condition was poor. First aid is done. It remains to undergo a course of treatment in Konoha. Ino also patched up Neji after Kakashi's cauterization therapy. Everyone was listening to Neji now. He was sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall. Then Asuma-sensei told the three of us to stand behind and cover him. He rushed to the devil, trying to hurt. But all attacks were repelled with a sword. Still, the devil missed one blow, but it only left a scratch on his cheek. Then he began to attack Asuma-sensei more aggressively. He pressed him. This is where we came into play. Ten used her weapon scroll, and everything flew in the direction of the two of them. Asuma-sensei left in a moment. The devil stayed to fight back, which he did. One kunai hit him in the shoulder, but he quickly pulled it out and jumped upward, avoiding Chaoji's fist punch. Then Asuma-sensei entered the battle while still in the air, and immediately began to push the devil back. I tried to flank, but the devil noticed this, and quickly moved away from Asuma to use the technique of the wind element. A jet that destroys a jet of air. She swept away all the trees in the path, and turned them into chips. Asuma-sensei left her. Did not see how the others, but I did not succeed. It was unexpected. I was thrown backwards and I fell. As soon as I came to my senses, the devil ran to me. I quickly got up, and stabbed my palm directly into the stomach, but it had no effect. A sword was thrust right through me. Asuma-sensei ran to help, but did not have time. And then the two of them fought again. I tried to get up, but it was as if I was constrained. The devil seemed to know where to hit. And so they continued, and I watched. In the course of the battle, the forces were equal. The devil even won a little, in one-on-one with sensei. He no longer used the technique, probably because of my palm. 10-10, and Chaoji constantly interfered with the devil. And he was tired of it. Slowly he began to increase the distance between himself and sensei to maneuver. Sensei saw this, and did not allow it to be done. The devil began to miss blows. Asuma-sensei did not bring much harm. He did not get it. Only a couple of scratches. But here sensei probably miscalculated, or thought he would hurt. In other words, he took a chance. He lunged forward, trying to hit with his right hand. The devil ducked in a second and leaped forward, leaving the wound that Ino was treating now in his right side. This knocked sensei out. For a minute, this was enough. The devil rushed to 10-10. She tried him with her cold weapon, but he dodged. Was behind and knocked out. It's the same with Chaoji. He tried to reach with his huge hand, but the devil is more agile and faster. Came up and knocked out. Asuma-sensei has already come to his senses, and again entered the battle. He pushed the devil aside, and applied his technique with smoke and fire. It seems to be how it worked. The devil left her. It is not clear how. At the time of the explosion, he was in the center of the smoke screen. The fight continued. They fought like this for a while. Only Kenjutsu. Nothing more. They fizzled out. A minute later, Asuma-sensei rushed to the devil. He threw the sword up. And when sensei raised his fist to strike, and was already a few millimeters from the target, something black flickered. The devil was above Sensei, and struck, and then he finished it off when he tried to get up. Then he took the scrolls, left the pills so that I could help Asuma Sensei, and leave. Neji finished his story. There was silence. Shikamaru clenched his fist. Reinforcements will be coming tomorrow. We will go to Konoha. Now all go to the numbers. Rest. Ino will look after the sick. The command was heard. They all dispersed. Ino was left alone, together with Asuma and Lee on the bunks. She turned off the light and sat down on a chair between the beds. Over time, Ino fell asleep, and a little bit she fell asleep. But suddenly she was awakened by a voice from the window. Sleep well, probably? She opened her eyes. Fear gripped her. Slowly she began to turn her head towards the window. The devil sat on the windowsill and looked at Ino. "And you are prettier," said the devil, but immediately realized what a mistake he had made. "Do you know why I came?" He decided to behave calmly, although he blurted out too much. There was no answer. Instead, Ino began to slowly draw air in her lungs, and quietly draw out her kune. "You shout. And I will finish all three. Draw out a kune, and I will kill you, before you even have time to squeak." He climbed inside, and walked towards Ino. She sat in silence.